Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for Unlock Your Inner Healing Potential, Relieving Chronic Pain Through Hypnosis. My name is Jodie Solberg, and I am looking forward to taking you through all of the information on how to activate that inner healing potential in your subconscious mind today. I have been a hypnotherapist for over 20 years. My background is in social and clinical psychology, as well as counseling. And why I chose hypnotherapy as one of my modalities is that I really wanted to help my clients get to the root cause of their issues. And I've been a trauma focused therapist for almost 25 years now. And it was really important to me to help people to get to those roots so they weren't just working on that conscious level, talking in circles around those same challenges over and over and over again, sometimes for years. So now, as a transpersonal mental wellness professional and a certified master hypnotherapist, working with all ages and all stages of people in their lives, I have found that really teaching people how their subconscious mind works and how to tap into it through the use of hypnosis. And you're going to learn today all about what that means and that all hypnosis is self hypnosis. I can help them to reprogram their subconscious minds to unlock their inner healing power. You're going to learn all about the mind body connection today. We're going to learn how strong and seamless that truly is. We're going to talk about chronic pain specifically and how our minds and our bodies are connected to alter our experience with chronic pain. And I'm going to tell you that over so many years of working with clients around their physical, mental, emotional well being and how much those things are intertwined, I also have experienced that myself. So I'm going to speak to you today from professional experience, yes, of course, but also some personal experience with chronic pain myself. Because when I was in a major car accident back in 2017, I was literally hit by a truck. I was stopped completely in traffic with the rest of everybody else who was stopped in traffic, and a big work truck. It was a big plumbing truck that the driver was texting, wasn't paying attention, didn't see that everyone else was stopped, literally plowed through the car behind me that ended up backwards on the other side of the freeway, right into me. And I experienced a lot of course, acute pain in the moment, but chronic pain. And I wasn't healing the way that I was hopeful that I would, that my doctors were hopeful that I would. I was still dealing with a lot of chronic pain well over a year after that accident and beyond. And so I course, started to practice what I teach and said, what is going on behind the scenes? Because about 90%, you're going to learn this in a moment about our subconscious mind, about 90% of everything that happens in our subconscious mind. Only about 10% is conscious at most, 5 to 10. And so I really looked at that for myself of what's going on underneath the surface or behind the curtain, so to speak, to continue this cycle of having this chronic pain. And so I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that I've used personally, as well as that I teach to my clients every single day in order to shift their experience with pain to lessen and to alleviate a lot of their symptoms and hopefully to be able to free them from that chronic pain. So, first, we're going to talk today about that mind body connection. And we're going to talk about mental rehearsal because our beliefs truly influence our thoughts and what we visualize about what's going to happen before it ever even gets to that point. So I want you to think about that. You know, when you're somebody who has chronic pain, and you can see the gal in the picture, right, with her neck pain. I know for me personally, I had neck pain, I had hip pain, I had all sorts of pain in different areas of my body. And when we look at our thoughts about our pain, right, what are they predominantly? So I want you to think about that. Are they anticipating the pain? Are we visualizing like, oh, that's going to hurt later, right? What are we forecasting for ourselves? What are we thinking about? And what are we expecting to have happen? Right? That's a really important piece. So I want you to think about, if you're somebody who suffers from chronic pain, what do you think about when you're about to go participate in an activity? So if you're going to be doing chores around the house, and I remember when my chronic pain was so bad, I couldn't vacuum my house. There were so many things that I felt that I couldn't do. And I was focused on those things that were limitations. So what do you think about when you're about to go try to work out, go walk? Maybe it's an outdoor activity with your family, maybe it's household chores, but you're struggling with chronic pain. You may be anticipating and even dreading that ache that's going to be radiating from your back, or that hip pain that's going to be shooting down your leg, or that neck pain that's going to be giving you that bad headache. You just know that you're going to suffer from later tonight, or you're going to wake up with in the morning. And our beliefs about pain, our negative expectancy of it, and how we even simply visualize that physical activity before we actually even go out and do it impacts how your brain prepares you for what you're getting ready to experience. So what we do is we mentally rehearse the pain by thinking about the activity and how it could be painful during or after the fact. And what happens is that in order to manage that pain, we have to really look at what are we expecting to happen? And how is our brain taking our expectation and turning that into reality? Because our thoughts about what is going to happen as we move, sit, stand, bend, walk, reach, right? Our thoughts about that prepares our brain, and then our body in turn follows for what is to come. And we're not just thinking that walking or reaching or doing this activity might be painful. We're actually rehearsing for a painful walk. So that's why before you even reach for that object, before you even step out the door to go on that walk, you already start to feel the pain. Right? So it's this trap of picturing and then experiencing pain that we need to change in order to shift our experience with that pain. And I'm going to explain to you how all of that works in your brain today. So we're going to go through how that operates, how our thoughts can turn into physical pain, and then we're going to talk about a solution that I have for you. So an option of something you can do, something you can focus on that is positive, something that can help you take more control over your experience with that pain. So I want to share this quote with you by Dr. Bruce Lipton that says, your conscious mind is the captain and the crew, but your subconscious mind is the engine that drives the ship. Our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, negative or positive. So we have to be very careful what we let in through the gateway of our subconscious mind, because whatever we tell it to be true, it believes and will look for every bit of evidence that that's true. Right? Your subconscious mind is in charge. It's the engine that's the driving force. The captain might be giving the orders, right? And then your subconscious mind is following along. And so think about that. If we are giving our brains, we're giving our minds orders that are saying, be in pain, what are we going to get more of? And often it's, I don't want to be in pain, or I'm fearful that I will be in pain. But all your subconscious mind hears is in pain, be in pain. The negative isn't accepted. It's just, I'm in pain. And so think about that. Repetition is one of the gateways to the subconscious mind. And so how often have you been rehearsing? How often have you been thinking about the pain? How often have you been experiencing it? Because every time it reinforces more and more, as we're going to learn today, right? We also, a lot of times, have an authority figure who are going to tell us that whatever we're going to experience is painful. You may have doctors right? Experts who are telling you you're in pain, you're going to keep being in pain. This is just going to be how it is. And I know because I've been there. I've been there where the doctors told me, well, there's nothing else we can do for you. So we're just going to give you injections or pills or whatever the case may be. And that's just how it's got to be because it's never going to change. And so when an authority figure is telling you that, that's another gateway into your subconscious mind is through authority. And they're telling you that this is true. And so your subconscious mind is accepting it as truth, especially if you keep repeating that over and over to yourself, then, right? Because their voice, sometimes an outside voice, becomes our inner self talk because we accepted that as truth. And so we keep playing it over and over again for ourselves. Often we also take on pain as an identity piece. Okay, that's another gateway to our subconscious mind, right? These are all different ways that our minds get programmed a certain way. And so identity, like you identify as someone with a certain medical condition or with chronic pain. So it's really important instead of saying, I am in pain or I am someone with this particular condition, right? I am an accident victim. I am someone with an autoimmune immune disorder, for example, or I am someone who has this, right? If we're identifying ourselves as that, we're actually telling ourselves that it's unchangeable, that that's just how it is, and we're not telling our brains to move to do anything about it. And so what happens is we tell ourselves, this is who I am, versus I am experiencing pain in this moment, and then focusing on what we can do about it, which we're going to be doing today, right? We focus on what we think we can't do anything about, and that that's unchangeable and just who we are now. It's part of who we are versus something we're experiencing just in this moment, in this season, right? You can be someone who has a condition, but not identify as the condition. If that makes sense. Now, emotion is the fourth way that we get programmed. And so, of course, if you have a health condition that, or, an injury, whatever the case may be, that has caused you pain, often what happens is we then have anxiety, right? Some health anxiety that pops up over the fact that we are dealing with that condition. And so there's emotions that are tied up in that, of course. And so what happens is we have a strong emotion, and that is a high potential for subconscious programming. So it's important to learn how to exert more control over our thoughts and our emotions rather than letting them control us. Now, how it works is we have a beliefs. So we have a belief about chronic pain. We have a belief about all of the things in our worlds, about ourselves, our situation, the worlds around us. We have lots of those beliefs. And those beliefs create thoughts. And those thoughts fuel our emotions. And those emotions then influence our behaviors. And so if we have a belief that our identity is that we have chronic pain, and that everything we do is going to cause it to get worse, for example, right? You're just thinking about something and you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so bad tomorrow when I wake up in the morning. I'm going to be so sore. That's really going to affect me. You start having these thoughts, and then you start having stress and anxiety over those thoughts. And then what happens is it affects our behaviors. And we're going to talk about how it affects our body's behavior, our brain's behavior, and our responses here in a moment. But I want to share with you first the fifth gateway, which we're going to be talking about today. The fifth gateway to our subconscious mind is through hypnosis. Now, there can be negative hypnotic influences and positive hypnotic influences, and we experience them every single day. We experience these influences all the time because we have an innate ability to go through some different states of consciousness, which I'm going to be sharing with you. And we go in and out of them every single day throughout the day. And I'm just going to give you some examples before I dive into the science of how that works with you. And I want to share with you that negative hypnotic influences, that we can have things like when we're watching the news, watching a movie, right? You get sucked in, or you find yourself humming the pharmaceutical jingle the next day from the commercial that you were watching when you were streaming, right? Those little 1 minute commercials, a lot of pharmaceutical commercials, lots of catchy jingles. And so what happens is that, we could be doing anything. And if we're a little relaxed and maybe we're like lounging on the couch watching TV, or we're intensely focused, or we are kind of zoning out and daydreaming, we are in these different states. And so what happens is we could be literally, you could be eating, drinking, smoking, watching TV, negatively visualizing, or experiencing negative self-talk, and you're constantly negatively programming your mind. Now, positive hypnotic influences, whether it's hypnotherapy or self-hypnosis, which we're going to be talking about both of those today, imagining your goals you want to achieve, who you want to become, and imagining yourself being healthy, which we're definitely going to be diving into today. There's so many ways to shift the program. You just have to be aware of it first. So I wanted to share this fabulous quote so that could increase your awareness. Awareness is always that first step. Now let's talk about what is on your mind. Your subconscious mind is responsible, like I mentioned, for upwards of 90% of everything that goes on with our behaviors, our reactions, our thoughts, our emotions, right? All the things, including our experience and perception of chronic pain. Your subconscious mind is like the silent operator behind the scenes, processing information, forming beliefs, and influencing our actions without us even consciously realizing it. So I want you to imagine it as the autopilot of your mind, navigating you through your daily life based on the programming it has received. Now, your subconscious mind is in charge of all of the bodily processes you don't have to think about. Breathing, pumping blood through your veins, right? Your oxygenation, all of those things. And it's really in charge of a lot more than that, right? Things like our deeply ingrained habits, right? The things that we do without even thinking about it, the actions that we take, right? All those habits and beliefs are formed in our subconscious mind. It influences those decisions that we make and how we feel, how we act every single day, how we interact. And our subconscious mind is heavily influenced by all those 5 things we just talked about, right? By thoughts, by experiences, by emotions. And it acts as this basically, container for our beliefs, whether they're empowering or they're limiting. So what we think about consistently, right? What we feel, think, all of these things, whatever we do consistently, creates a blueprint that our subconscious mind follows that impacts everything. It impacts our decisions, it impacts our habits, it impacts our behaviors. And there's a seamless connection between what is happening in the brain and how it impacts the body. Now, the inverse is true. Okay, so our brain and what happens in our minds impacts our body, but the behaviors we engage in, physical exercise, anything that we do also changes your brain. And when we're talking about chronic pain, it is a vicious cycle. Right? It goes back and forth. It's like a chicken and the egg type of situation of, which really comes first. Sometimes you can pinpoint something like I did, like there was an incident, there was, a collision that was the catalyst. You're like, okay, that came first. And then how did my brain operate? How did my body respond? How did my body influence my brain in order to create that chronic pain moving forward? For some people, they may not have that. They may have an underlying health condition, not something that's an individual incident that they can pinpoint. And then there really is that question, and no matter which place it started, if it started in your mind, if it started in your body, either one it can absolutely be changed. And that is through this concept called neuroplasticity. So good news is you are not stuck this way. It is not unchangeable. Chronic pain is not your identity. It is not who you are. It is not who you always have to be. Neuroplasticity is our brain's ability to change and adapt throughout our lives. It's a complex process that involves the formation of new neural connections, the strengthening of existing connections, and the pruning of unused connections. Right? The more we use a path, the more worn in it becomes until it becomes a road and then a highway and then a freeway, right? But if we're not using it, it gets overgrown and pruned out and discarded. Neuroplasticity is essential for our learning, our memory, and our recovery from injuries. So our brain's ability to heal our body, that is all tied into this neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is our brain's capacity to continue growing and evolving in response to all of our experiences in our lives, right? So neuro is your brain, plasticity is the capacity to be shaped, molded, or altered. And doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't matter how long you've been dealing with a condition or a pain, it can absolutely change, right? Our brains have the innate ability to adapt and change over time, creating new neurons, building new networks. I know historically scientists believed that our brains stop growing after childhood, but that is absolutely not true. Current research shows that our brains have the ability to continue growing and changing throughout our entire lives. It refines the architecture, it shifts the different functions to different regions of the brain as needed. And so it's really important to know that in the case of chronic pain, neuroplasticity helps explain why acute pain can become chronic and why chronic pain may also spread into other areas of your body. There's this saying that neurons that fire together wire together. And that explains this two-step process I'm going to walk you through that occurs in your brain. Because when a person, let's say they have an out of alignment or herniated disc in their neck, and so that disc is pressing on a nerve, right? Two things happen in your brain when that happens. So first, there's a sensory map in what's called the parietal lobe of our brains that becomes active for that area of the neck. It lights up for that area. The other thing that happens at the same time is that there's a pain map located throughout different areas of our brains that produces signals that indicate discomfort, right? It says, okay, pain right here, I'm uncomfortable, right? That becomes active too. So once both those sensory neurons and the pain neurons in our brain map become linked, they continue to fire together. Okay, so they're now on a path together where one goes and the other one goes. Okay, so they're always kind of linked. And the more that happens over and over and over again, that more that path gets worn in, the stronger that connection becomes. So then all it takes is literally thinking about the pain in the neck. All it takes is being afraid that an activity will cause pain, or visualizing yourself having the pain in order to activate the pain map, which is now connected to the sensory map. And so simply by just visualizing, even just moving your neck, right? Thinking about the pain, being fearful of the pain, or like, oh, if I move this way, it'll hurt, for example, right? That's going to trigger your body's response of a pain signal. Now, one of the things that I do as a hypnotherapist is I also teach hypnobirthing classes. And as a hypnobirthing instructor, I teach about a phenomenon called fear, tension, pain syndrome. And what that means is that our thoughts, our fears, and our imagination alone can create tension in our muscles and activate pain in our bodies. So fear triggers a stress response in the body, leading to the release of stress hormones, causing muscle tension, which in turn leads to increased pain perception. And so not only is that reaction happening in the brain that I was talking about, now your body's pumping out these stress hormones, you're tensing up, so those muscles are tensing up, causing more perception of pain. So again, vicious cycle, okay, that we need to break ourselves out of. And so now I'm going to show you how to do that, because now you know, right? You have some insight, you have this awareness of, okay, even just me thinking about it, thinking about pain, imagining pain is causing me more pain. And then every time I do that, those connections get stronger and stronger and stronger. How do we make those pathways, the road less traveled, and create a new pathway in order for you to affect change, right? To activate that neuroplasticity in a positive way? And it's through hypnosis. It's an amazing way to create those changes. Hypnosis is completely natural, like I mentioned earlier, right? It's just a more relaxed state, right? Highly focused awareness and concentration. And your by peripheral awareness being diminished, what I mean here is that you're kind of blocking out all the things around you. So you're focused more inward. You're just not paying attention to all the things on the outside. And your brain is receptive. That's what heightened suggestibility means. So I'm going to translate all of these more technical terms here, because you are more able to activate your neuroplasticity in this deeply relaxed state, because you're able to tap into that power of your subconscious mind. So completely natural. And again, heightened focus and awareness, not giving up control to anyone else, and not the lack of control and awareness. It's actually the opposite. A lot of what people have heard about when we talk about hypnosis and hypnotherapy, if they haven't experienced that before, is from media. And what is one of the ways that I told you all earlier that you can be negatively programmed? It's through media. We're told and shown on television, through these commercials, through TV shows, hospital TV shows and whatnot, that there's certain things that this is painful. Like I had mentioned earlier about hypnobirthing, we're taught that, you watch it on the screen and there's pain, there's screaming, right? Fear, attention, pain syndrome. We get programmed that that's how it's supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to act. That's how birth is going to go. And so then that's what we expect. That's what we visualize. That's what we think about. That's what we create. It does not have to be that way. And it doesn't have to be that way with chronic pain either, regardless of what diagnoses and health conditions that you have. Of course, we want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and have an amazing care team for ourselves physically, and need to also pay attention and realize how important everything that's going on in our minds is, so we can give ourselves the best possible chance to be able to heal and to be able to alleviate those pains and symptoms. And so we can help you diminish the sensation of the pain. We can help you through hypnosis to be able to alter your experience with that and to not exacerbate it. And that's really a huge piece of what I do when I help someone as a hypnotherapist, is I'm helping them to not feed into that cycle that I just shared with you, so that the symptoms get worse than they need to be. The pain becomes longer, more often, and at a higher level than it really needs to be to match whatever's going on with them. Like I'd mentioned for me earlier, I wasn't healing. As I hit a plateau. I hit this place where I wasn't getting any further. And that's when I realized, from what I do, okay, there's something going on that's keeping my body from healing the way that it can. And I've experienced this with, like I said, injuries like car accidents, also things like autoimmune and hormone imbalances as well, personally, and being able to move through that. So again, hypnosis really is not like you see on TV or in the movies. Again, we go through states of hypnosis throughout the day. So if you're, watching a movie and you get really caught up in the emotions of the characters. I know I do. I'm an emotional one. I cannot watch ASPCA commercials. I will cry. Absolutely. I have rescue babies. And so I don't like to do that. Or, if the character's crying on TV, it makes me emotional too, right? I'm in one of those states of consciousness where I'm so connected. And so think about those times. You can also think about when you kind of zone out on the way home from the grocery store and you're thinking about what you're going to make for dinner and your to-do list later. You are daydreaming. Anytime you come out of the present moment and what's right around you, you're in a state that's like hypnosis. We're just utilizing it intentionally for therapeutic purposes. That's all. So again, I get really into the TV. I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me unless I hear a noise and I look over and I see what's going on, right? Same thing in the car. You kind of don't pay attention and you get home. You're like, I don't even remember how I got home. Your subconscious mind knows how to get home. It's done that drive 1,000 times. You don't tend to zone out if you're really focused and you're like, okay, I have to turn here because you don't know where you're going, right? But if somebody had hit the brakes or honked, it takes you out of it. That's how come there's a lot of people that sit at stoplights. They're zoning out a little bit, right? And somebody has to honk at them to get them to be like, oh yeah, the light's green, and they move, right? They're in one of these states. And so we're going to talk about that, right? Hypnosis is when your mind's quieted, you're able to tap into the part of your brain where thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, sensations, emotions, memory, and behaviors originate. And in this state, you're open to gentle guidance, right? Especially when we're talking about positive. Now, in this state, you will, like I said, be in control. You also will reject anything that goes against your moral beliefs, or you're not going to tell anybody your passwords. If you want to do it right now, you're not going to do it under hypnosis. So you don't have to worry about that. You're not asleep. Most people remember everything that happens. You can go to very deep states where you block all the things out, but hypnosis is definitely not sleeping. And there's some different brainwave states that we can go to in hypnosis that I want to share with you a little bit about. So beta is when we're wide awake, alert right now. I'm in beta. Okay, I'm focused, talking to you all. I'm engaged, right? So that's your natural beta state. It's just what we think of as just conscious alert all the time, right? Gamma is a very highly focused state where things actually move a lot faster. That's intense focus, peak performance, problem solving. So things are moving quickly. What we're going to focus on is alpha, theta, and then I'll tell you a little bit about delta. So delta is your deep restorative sleep. Okay, that's going really, really slow. Alpha and theta are those lighter, relaxed states. Okay, theta is a little deeper than alpha. So alpha is that first relaxed state I was just talking about with the autopilot with driving, watching movies and TV, whatnot. You go from beta to alpha to theta to delta when you go to sleep, and then you come back up the other direction, okay, when you wake up. And so alpha and theta are the ideal states for change, for subconscious reprogramming, right? We're going to deprogram ourselves from the way that we've been experiencing our chronic pain, and we're going to shift those thoughts, those emotions, those beliefs, and eventually our actions, right? Our behavior and how our bodies are responding by giving ourselves more positive programming in these alpha and theta states, okay? So your alpha state is kind of that door between your conscious and your subconscious mind. We have easier access to memories, greater ability to store new information, enhance creativity and imagination, communication between both sides of your brain. And whenever we go into alpha, we're technically hypnotized. Okay. So whether it's movie, music, guided by another person, if you're meditating, those types of things, right? Yoga, you might be an alpha. Now, theta is going to happen when we start to drift off or when we're getting ready to wake up and you're aware of all the things around you. This is where a lot of the autopilot types of things happen, right? We do things without even thinking about it. And so we're awake, but in a very relaxed state of mind. This is where neuroplasticity is at its peak. Okay, so I wanted to share those with you so that you would understand how hypnosis works with that neuroplasticity. So hypnotherapy is practiced in that alpha to theta range, where you're in that heightened state of awareness and focus. And because your subconscious mind is more readily accessed here and your conscious mind is relaxed, we're more open to positive change and to getting your subconscious to work with you rather than at cross purposes and against you. Okay. So let's talk about reprogramming and rewiring yourself for success, which in this case means less pain, right? Comfort. Comfort. Now, see how I shifted that. I want to really explain how and why I shifted that language. Because remember how earlier I said we want to not talk about the things we don't want. We don't want to say, I don't want to be in pain, because all your subconscious will hear is pain. So I wanted to model that for you, how I shifted to we're rewiring for success, we're rewiring for comfort, we're rewiring for health. And we're going to focus on what we want, not on what we don't want, because that's what tends to happen is we're so focused on what we don't want that we actually end up giving ourselves more of it because we're always thinking and talking about it. So I want you to think about if your subconscious mind is like a computer, our self-talk is the program. Okay, so that's why I'm using that term. So I want you to think of your mind like a computer. Okay, so by consciously choosing more supportive beliefs, thoughts, and states of being, right? Relaxation is like a state of being, right? And practicing more positive mental rehearsal instead of the negative mental rehearsal we talked about earlier, you can overwrite the past negative programming and change your brain and the way that you experience your chronic pain. So I want you to think about this. What is your definition of success? What would feel successful to you and how you would like to feel? Okay. So I want you to think about, what does feeling good to you look like, feel like, sound like? Use all of your senses to imagine how you would like to feel. And we're not focused on how we don't want to feel. We're going to focus on how we do want to feel. What would that be? Right? When you take the benefits plus the emotions. Now, emotions, I'm going to give you all a little insight here. Emotions are actually physiological responses put to words. It's how we describe our physiological responses. So think about that. Right? When we know we're anxious, we feel anxious in that moment. We might have our heart rate go up, our breathing might get faster. Right? What are some of those things that you could feel? And then we call it anxiety. Okay, what about happiness? What about calm? What about comfort? Right? I feel comfortable. What is that for you? What is that like? You should really think about that. And then what are the benefits of feeling that way? So this is something I want you to practice. And I'm going to walk you through some practice here in a moment. But we're going to take the emotions of how would you like to feel and what are the benefits of feeling that way. That's a very powerful combination that you can now mentally rehearse. Your subconscious mind responds best to your definition of health, success, comfort, whatever label you want to put on it. It has to be your words, your definition, rather than anyone else's. That's why when I do hypnotherapy sessions, I use my clients' language. I give them open-ended questions for them to imagine those things themselves. Even in my program where we have lots of different guided recordings, I leave those things very open-ended for them to visualize for themselves, to answer those questions for themselves, because it has to be yours for your subconscious mind and to accept it readily. It has to be in your words, in your voice, in your imagination. And so as you're doing this, we want to be focused on giving our subconscious something to work on. And that's that mental rehearsal piece. Right? We want to mentally rehearse feeling good, feeling mentally and physically relaxed and totally at ease. What that will do is the opposite of what we talked about earlier. It's going to increase the good hormones, the feel good hormones, such as endorphins. Endorphins are like nature's morphine. They are up to 200 times more effective than morphine. And it blocks the stress hormones that feed into that fear, tension, pain cycle. Right? So we actually want to inhibit those stress hormones because the stress hormones and those feel-good hormones can't exist at the same time. Right? You're either sending one signal or you're sending the other one. So that's the path we want to start to form, and wherein is going to be the comfort, the relaxation, the feeling good path. Okay. So I want you to imagine this simple suggestion formula that you can say to yourself as you're doing this, as you're doing your mental rehearsal. Something like, my mind is relaxed, my body is relaxed. Every day and every way, it gets better and better. Your subconscious mind knows what it is. Some of you are going to want to put something in there like, my neck pain gets better and better, but then what are we doing? We're saying neck pain to our subconscious, aren't we? And so your subconscious mind will figure that out and what that means. It gets better and better. You can put in there something more positive, though. You could put in there, if you want, every day in every way, I'm more and more comfortable and relaxed. That's fine. That works. Just be careful and not to reinforce what you don't want, right? We want to be careful about that. So here's a few steps. Like I mentioned earlier, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis because you are the one that's in control. And so I'm going to walk you through getting into this alpha state and potentially beyond. The more you practice, the deeper you'll go, the easier it's going to be, okay? So how you set the stage for success in self-hypnosis is you find a nice, quiet, comfortable space to relax, have anything close by that you may need. 4 key ingredients to a successful hypnosis session: imagination, belief, expectancy, and conviction. Imagination is like the language of the subconscious mind. It's how it communicates. Your imagination is powerful. You can imagine a food and then taste it. You can imagine being tired and then feel it. You can imagine your pain and then be in pain. So learning to take control of this enhances motivation and allows through the formation of healthier, more supportive, more comfortable habits. Now, belief enhances our imagination. Whatever we believe will happen influences our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions, remember? So that belief is a choice. So choosing to believe, for example, that hypnosis is going to work for you, it's going to work for you. Okay, choosing to believe that when you relax, you're going to feel more comfortable. When you relax, you're going to feel more comfortable. Now, that expectancy is really a key piece that we mentioned earlier. If you expect you will heal versus believing you won't, right? So if you expect you'll heal, you expect you'll be successful in reducing your pain. If you expect that you'll be able to stop thinking about being in pain all of the time, you will. To change your expectation, you just address imagination and belief. And we can address that expectation piece. And then being convicted. So conviction, being totally convinced of the positive outcome. Having conviction means that your actions are going to meet your expectations. So remember, the body starts the cycle, the mind right here, right? They will follow each other. So if you start it in the mind, the body will follow. Right? It goes both ways. So remember that. So you have control over right here. Even if you feel like you don't have control over the rest right now, believe that you have control here and then it will affect your body positively. Okay. There's a few different ways to get into this relaxed state to get into alpha. And then, of course, we can deepen from there. Things like progressive relaxation. Um, that is a great way, especially if you have chronic pain. You go top down or bottom up. And with each breath, you go deeper and deeper into relaxation, deeper and deeper into releasing any tension, any tightness, letting go of any pain, any discomfort that you feel. You start with your toes, then your feet, your ankles, your calves, and you keep moving upwards. Or you can stop at the top, go back down, that's fine too. You get to choose whatever makes the most sense to you. I tend to go bottom up in my sessions because we relax their mind. At the end, open their mind, open their imagination, because we're going deeper at that point. You can absolutely start at the top. If you're someone with chronic migraines, chronic headaches, you can start at the top and go back down. There's a lot to be said for where we store our stress and how our body operates. I have worked with so many people in hypnotherapy who have chronic migraines, and it's literally been since childhood, and they're in their 30s, 40s, and beyond at this point. And they have just been told there's nothing that can be done about it. And through hypnotherapy, working together, we've found that it was all about, for example, pressure and expectation that was put on them as a child and now they put on themselves. Or that pain was serving some kind of a purpose for them, that was the only way they felt that they could have an excuse to go take some time out and take care of themselves. There's so many different ways that our subconscious minds can store pain and stress and tension. And so progressive relaxation can help you to do a scan to see where you're holding on to trauma, stress, pain, etc. It also can help you learn how to relax, which is a really important skill. Now, there's eye fixation, there's counting backwards, there's lots of different ways. And I'm going to share with you how we can work together if you would like to learn some of those ways. But there's a lot of different ways to get into self-hypnosis and lots of different techniques. But one of the things that you can do is you can take yourself into that relaxed state, right? You can do a progressive relaxation. You can visualize yourself pain-free once you're in that relaxation, right? You can repeat that suggestion maybe 5 times. My mind is relaxed. My body is relaxed. Every day in every way, I feel better and better, or it gets better and better, whatever it is. There's so many amazing benefits. And then when you're done, you can just count yourself back up 1 to 5, back into wiggling your toes and your feet and your hands, and back into full awareness, alert, and ready for the rest of your day. Very, very simple. Now, again, if you are somebody whose chronic pain is rooted in some deeper emotional challenges, which I know mine was, and the client with the migraine headaches that I just mentioned was, and so many of my clients, it can be really, really important to work with a hypnotherapist like myself to be able to get to some of those deeper root causes. There's a lot that you can do, and you can start doing this right now on your own, because if you believe in your ability to heal yourself and to feel better, absolutely anything is possible. And there is support available. You do not have to do this alone. Hypnosis is amazing for reducing stress, improving focus, enhancing your overall well-being, changing habits, resolving inner conflict, alleviating chronic pain and health conditions, healing your inner child, healing from trauma and the effects of it. And what's really, really incredible is the success rates of hypnotherapy. So working with a hypnotherapist, it's incredible that, in a single session, you have a 17 to 20% success rate. And that's rate of change in my line of work. At 3 sessions up to 50%, 45, 50% success rate of change, 5 or more, 85 to 90% plus. And there was also a study that showed that with hypnotherapy, we can have 93% plus recovery in whatever someone is working on after 6 sessions versus 72% recovery after 22 sessions of behavioral therapy, or 38% recovery after 600 sessions of psychoanalysis. Instead of just talking around things over and over again, and again, focusing on the pain and reinforcing it, now you should understand why that is. Because we're not just talking about it and talking about being in pain and reinforcing it over and over and over again, right? An outlet is a wonderful thing. And we can do a lot more harm than good sometimes by just focusing constantly on our pain. And when we are focusing on healing from within and activating our body's own healing abilities, anything is absolutely possible. Now, I want to share with you how you can get that support that I'm talking about here. And knowing that the journey to subconscious reprogramming is so much easier, especially when you have support and guidance. And that hypnotherapy is a powerful tool, creating that super highway we were talking about earlier to your subconscious mind. It accelerates your progress towards that vision of how you want to feel versus how you don't. And so I do offer individual hypnotherapy. I offer one-on-one sessions where we can personalize and customize those sessions based on your needs. I'm a very client-centered hypnotherapist. So like I mentioned earlier, it's all going to be customized and tailored to you and what you're dealing with. I've worked with people who've had chronic pain from autoimmune disorders, health conditions, stress-induced conditions such as strokes. I've worked with clients who had a stroke, who the doctor said it was completely stress-induced. And so, whether you're dealing with something that is a diagnosed health condition, or I've had a lot of clients who have come to me who have tried everything and gone everywhere, and no one has the answer for them. And so we can really dive into how and where are you holding the emotional pain and storing that in your body. What is your body trying to say to you? Right? What are those signs? What are those symptoms? What do they mean? So it can really help you get reconnected and activate that inner healing wisdom, that inner intuition, learn how to trust yourself and figure out how to work with versus against those natural abilities. Now, I also have a group program called my Clarity Collective, and this is where you get access to that library I mentioned earlier of all my guided self-hypnosis recordings. So this is a done with you type of a program where you are going to have access to 2 group calls a month, so bi-weekly group sessions. We do guided hypnotherapy sessions. We also do some somatic release and other types of techniques in those calls that are going to help you to alleviate pain, heal from trauma, release negative emotions. And in those recordings, you're going to have access to my entire library, including all of the recordings on health and well-being, including releasing any pain and embracing your ideal healthy body. Because again, I'm not going to call it relieving pain, right? We're not focused on pain. We're embracing our healthy bodies. We also have in there lots of things around emotional release and emotional regulation, as well as all different levels of success. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And I'm teaming up with another practitioner here in this amazing space, Kate Simpson, excuse me. She's a certified master energy healing practitioner. And we are teaming up for inner healing sessions that are absolutely transformational. She goes in and helps you to release any negative energy and emotions stored in your subconscious, stored in your body that you may not even be aware of. And then I come in and help you to repattern and reprogram your subconscious mind and the way that you experience that chronic pain. Now, we also have sessions around other topics. So we do have inner healing sessions for chronic pain, but also sleep issues, as well as self-doubt and other types of topics that everyone experiences, right? Stress and anxiety among them. So you can absolutely check those out And I want to invite you, if you're trying to figure out what's going to be the best for me, right? Where do I land? What is going to be most beneficial? I would love for you to book a complimentary 30 minutes call with me, just a consult to explore your options for support in relieving your chronic pain. Because again, you do not have to do this alone. And I highly recommend having a whole care team, people who can be there for you and with you to help you to move through this season and to alleviate that chronic pain. So please go ahead and click on the QR code or go to just bit.ly, explore call with Jodie. You can ask me about any of those programs that I do offer, or we can just talk about what you're experiencing and what is going to be the best avenue for you. And I am someone who loves to be a referral source. So I will tell you how I might be able to help you. And I also may know other people that you can add to your care team that will be able to help you as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am so grateful to be here with you all. And I know that you can take care of yourself first before everyone and everything else so that you can absolutely shift and alleviate your experience with chronic pain. So look forward to connecting with you.